Welcome to the Syscom Cybercast. This is episode number 1 in our weekly podcast. We're excited to be starting this podcast. This is, something we've been talking about for a while. Our goal is to kind of speak about our areas of expertise and industries, and devote months to actually these industries, and address some of the pain points that we see a lot of times customers have, and how we are able to help them bridge the gaps and overcome some of those hurdles. Hoping the value for the listener is just you know obviously exposure to what Syscom does, and how we can help them. But I hope that you know listeners will be able to gain some valuable advice on what to do next if they're dealing with in-house IT, or um you know or have outsourced it, what they should be expecting, and hopefully pick up some tips and advice. So that's the real goal of this podcast. But unfortunately tonight, I'm dealing with a storm here in eastern North Carolina. A very bad thunderstorm that actually hit our main office in New Orleans yesterday. So having some issues with power. So hopefully be able to get this out. But it will only be audio tonight. We will have video in the future. So if you hear any thunder in the background, just know that is some of this thunderstorm. So it is getting a little worse. So hopefully no major technical issues. But um, what we've done this month at Syscom is really devote the whole month to behavioral health. We have a lot of behavioral health customers, a lot of which are nonprofit, um, and some of the pain points that we see between all of them are very common, obviously. But the pain points that we see, are pretty similar between all the customers. But we've taken, each week of January, we're going to take time to kind of address and have a theme. This week is just technology budgeting. Uh, what we do at Syscom is, with all of our customers, we meet quarterly uh, with them, and kind of go over budgeting for that quarter, for the year. And it's really important for our behavioral health customers. Some things, some common things we see, common pain points, are just customers coming with, they'll have a ton of spare computers, either way overspec for what they need because they got a grant, or way underspec because they got a grant. So there's a lot of misallocation, and it's difficult when these type of customers have, you know, an in-house IT person that's trying to run around and take care of things. They don't have a true like VCIO, which is you're really true the services that we're providing, which is, in case anybody knows, this is the virtual chief information officer. Uh, so a lot of times we'll onboard a behavioral health customer. They'll have maybe in-house IT, or they had a previous IT vendor. They'll have 50 50 20 to 50 laptops or something that are underspec, that are spare, that have either way too old, or they just got from some grant. So what we try to do is work with them on their funding schedule. A lot of times we'll get you know a customer in their funding schedule, or their fiscal year will be like June to July, or I'm sorry, July to June. Not know, they'll get an allocation of money, not know where to put it. We try to work with them and their grant writers, to say, hey, is there a technology grant out there? Well, you have 20 end of life workstations. Let's write this grant for this funding, and switch some of these out. Now, say we have a prospective behavioral health customer, they maybe have anywhere from 50 to 200 end users, which you see a lot. And a lot of times these are nonprofits. And some of the main issues with technology budgeting we see is, we'll come in, they have a closet full of servers, or this server is way over spec, but it's also 12 years old or 14 years old. These computers, there's 10 of them. They were nice 5 years ago. Stuff that's old, and it's just been misallocated. And And what happens a lot of times is a grant or something will be written, and you'll kind of, say you get a grant for a technology grant, you'll get money to get new equipment, and it's just not allocated correctly. And what Syscom does is we sit down, we say, hey, we look at the needs in our business review meetings, and we do assessments before these meetings. Say, hey, this customer's got 50 end of life endpoints. Let's have a plan for switching these out. Or they got a grant, for a certain allocation. All right, let's do 10 this quarter and try to do 20 next quarter, or something along those lines. We've seen a lot of success with this, just for the fact that it helps our these type of customers deal with their budget and allocate it the best in the best possible way and keep their users going. And this is something we see continuously. And a lot of times it's mostly with workstations, laptops and desktops, but also see it a lot with networking equipment. You'll have a lot of switches that are, you know, at end of life, can't, unmanaged switches. This podcast is brought to you by Syscom. Syscom is a leading managed service provider in the southeastern United States. Whether you have an IT project, cybersecurity concern, or just need general technology advice, Syscom is the way to go. Call us today at 866-249-7636 or email us at sales@syscomllc.com. Especially with funding cycles, it's important that a behavioral health customer have proper technology budgeting, especially if they're a nonprofit. They have a limited budget. Usually their fiscal year is July to June, and they're getting a lot of their budget early in a new year. So just some pain points we've seen and how we work with them. And we've even been able to kind of get in with the grant writer and say, hey, are there any grants out there for servers? Hey, are there any grants out there for, networking equipment that we can apply to this? Because we look at the customer, they're the main thing is they're trying to treat their patients. They're trying to, keep workers up to treat these patients. And technology is a huge part of this. So it's very important that their critical IT infrastructure be addressed. And a lot of times when you onboard a behavioral health customer that's had in-house IT for a while, and it's nothing against in-house IT, it's very difficult to do that, to address everything as one or a team of one or two. You need a full team, and that's what we do at Syscom. We kind of take that role on and help allocate that money in the best possible way, which we do for all our customers, but behavioral health is super important, and something we do. So one of the good things about this podcast is obviously it will have video in the future. You'll get to see me live in, my beautiful face, along with some experts in the field, and get to, kind of talk about problems we face and how we solved them. Behavioral health, to kind of sum up, it's a obviously super important field, dealing with mental health and addiction and those type of things. And our real aim is to help these providers do their job. It's such an important function. And the main aspect of scope of this podcast obviously has been technology budgeting and how it's important to not misallocate money on large bulk purchases of unneeded equipment, and have someone like Syscom or a managed service provider, sit down with you, work with your team, your finance team, on saying, hey, this is where you need to put your spend. This is going to keep you secure. This is going to keep you functioning. This is going to help you stay up and treat patients. That one-on-one, one-on-one planning and business reviews is super important for Syscom's business. And my role at Syscom is basically that. I do sit down with our managed service customers, many of which are obviously behavioral health customers, and I help point them in the right direction of from assessment to review of their assets, which are their computers, any of their networking equipment, and just helping them make a good decision. It's a really important thing. And so we have specialized tools in house we use to have a list of workstations and say, okay, say a customer has 50 workstations, 10 of which are end of life. We have another, and when we say end of life, we're talking 5 years is usually the standard. Anything past 5 years, and then anything nearing end of life, we try to sit down and come up with a game plan and work within their budget to help them address those. Because the main thing when you have a ton of end of life equipment is you're going to start having performance issues, which is when somebody's trying to treat a patient, and it's going to be frustrating and inhibit them from doing their job. And then the other thing is you get more end of life. You're obviously running into issues with operating systems and everything being out of date, and then you have HIPAA concerns. So, and the main thing we don't want to catch, a nonprofit or anybody with is say, hey, you have 80% of your assets past end of life. That's a lot of strain on a budget. So, these are some of the reasons that technology budgeting is so important. And so, you know, our customers have been very receptive and very happy to sit down with us and discuss this, and it gives us a good chance to sit in front of them. And they appreciate it, because there's nothing worse in any business than a a customer or anybody, or a decision maker, receiving a giant quote, say, well, hey, why didn't you tell me about this a year ago? And that's what we found, and this is the way that IT has obviously been going for years. If anybody's familiar with it, so just some important notes on it. I know it's kind of a general, kind of overview of it, but we see this as one of the largest pain points with just behavioral health customers, is that they have an allocation of equipment that they can't use, or is just underspec or way over what they need. Um, and we've been able to take onboard large customers, get them on the right track, where we'll see 200 endpoints, workstations, and they'll have 150 of them end of life or under spec, and we continuously working with them, and we get them in a year where we have them whittled down to maybe only 100, and then keep working with them to you know get down to 75, and we keep working until their environment is functioning, and they're starting to be able to be more productive, they're more secure, and they're not having to worry about those things, and we can just worry about our support, and keeping them up, and not run into those productivity issues and those type of things. So to summarize, I know this is a short podcast, and that's the aim. Maybe when we get guests, it'll be a little more long form, but just wanted to get this one out for everybody to kind of hopefully get acquainted with us. My name is Chris, and I probably should have said that at the beginning of the podcast. But yeah, my name is Chris Powell. I'm always available. You know, email us at our sales at syscomllc.com email, and I'll respond. Call us 866-249-7636 anytime between, or just anytime if we're not, obviously open, leave a message and someone will, get back. But if you ever like to talk about technology budgeting or what Syscom can do for your business, we're always here to help. So appreciate the listenership, if that's the word, and looking forward to getting the video going, and getting guests on this podcast. And I hope I haven't bored everybody to tears this evening. Have run up into a little issue with the weather, but hope the sound's good on this one. And if there's any questions, always feel free.